What happens if you don't get into the PTA program? You spend all that time, all that money, effort, energy just to fall short.
This can be a scary thought, especially because school is so expensive, and this can prevent people from even trying to become a PTA in the first place.
The fear of failure can hold you back, and I can relate to this like 100% because a lot of times I will take the easier route or the safer route, the route that has the least amount of risk involved in it, instead of putting myself out there in hopes to do something better.
Sometimes we can be very self-defeating. Sometimes we get anxious about stuff that don't deserve anxiety. When I got my first job, I was 16 years old and I was working on a strawberry farm. I was working out in the field and I was happy and content by myself just working until the day my boss called me in to answer the phones. And honestly, I was terrified. It sounds super silly, but I was super anxious because I didn't know a lot of things. I was 16, I didn't really know what people were wondering, and I didn't know anything about strawberries, and I didn't know anything about anything, I felt like. So I just remember that day I walk in, the phone rings, and it's me, right? I'm supposed to answer, and I just felt like I'm sweating, I'm nervous, and I literally, my hands were shaking as I go to pick up the phone, and the person says, "Oh, what are your hours?" And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and you know the answer, and it's not as big as a deal as I originally thought. And if I didn't know, I could just ask. One of my coworkers was actually fantastic. She walked me through this process of like, what do you do if they ask you something that you don't know? And it was super helpful. And that's what we want to do with you. Like, what do you do if you don't get into the PTA program?
To help you walk through this process then, we're going to use a reflection exercise called Fear Setting by Tim Ferriss. And basically what you do is you define, you prevent, you repair, and you write down the cost of failure and the cost of inaction.
The first thing you have to do is define your fear. So for this situation, it would be not getting accepted into a physical therapist assistant program. After you have defined what your fear is, make a list of things that you could do to prevent that from coming true. First thing I think of is knowing. You have to know how to get accepted in order to get accepted. So listing things out, like you have to know the application deadline, you have to know what kind of grades you have to get, you have to know if there's observation hours you have to do ahead of time. There's a lot of things, but just listing out what you have to know about the program is helpful. The second step is like, how do you actually achieve that? So if you have to get a certain grade point average, what things can you do to prevent falling below that? So maybe getting a tutor, getting a mentor, carving out actual study hour times. And another thing that I think you can do to prevent that from happening is being organized. So having all your stuff in order, whether it's in folders, set reminders on your phone of when certain deadlines are so you're ahead of time and you don't miss those deadlines, especially when it comes to things that might take a little bit of time to achieve, like your observation hours. So getting everything all set up and organized can help you prevent yourself from being denied.
The next part of this fear setting exercise is to write down different ways you can repair the damage if you actually didn't get accepted into the program. One way you can repair the damage is by finding out why you didn't get accepted in the first place. So maybe it was something simple as you forgot to list 2 references, you only listed 1 in your application, so all you need to do is go and fix that, then you can reapply. Another way to repair the damage is by reapplying the next semester, or maybe you could reapply to different schools. Maybe you got a bad grade in one of your classes, so a way to repair that damage would be to retake that class to get a better grade. Or you could transition to a different degree altogether if you don't get accepted into the program, and you could decide to go into to be a dental hygienist, or go into occupational therapy, or a personal trainer, or something different altogether. Another way you can repair the damage if you don't get accepted into a program is by getting a side job. So if you can still earn some income while you're still trying to apply for school, this way you can still pay your bills. Maybe you could even become a physical therapist technician, which you don't need a degree to do that. So maybe you could try applying to become a tech, and that way you can get your hands on in this career as well.
The next thing you want to do is write down the cost of failure. The first thing I think of is temporary embarrassment that you didn't get in and didn't get accepted. That's kind of awkward, and probably you don't want to tell people or share that kind of news. Money is a cost of failure because the money that you put into the classes that you took and the books and the time off of work because you were going to school, because now it's going to take longer or you might have to take more classes. So money is definitely something that's a cost of failure. time is a cost of failure because you're going to have to take more time now. It doesn't work out like you planned, so you might be in school longer, and also the strain on your family and relationships because what you were planning on doing isn't exactly working out like you thought. So it's stressful, you're in limbo, and it's stressful for the people around you.
The next category is the cost of inaction versus the benefit of following through with it. So the cost of inaction, of not going to a PTA program and applying and trying to become a PTA, could be lack of fulfillment. So if you don't even try, then you might not feel fulfilled just working your job you were previously working. You might not be happy or satisfied with that. Another cost of inaction could be money. So you might not be making a lot of money before becoming a PTA, and then after you become a PTA, you might earn more money. So the cost of inaction is you won't be making as much versus if you did go to school to become a PTA. Time is another cost of inaction if you don't become a PTA because you might have to work more jobs and work more frequently to make up for the income that you might have gotten if you were a PTA. And also as a PTA, you could get days off for paid time off and be able to take vacations, get holidays off, so you might have more free time being a PTA. Another cost of inaction might be regret. You might regret always wondering if maybe you should have became a PTA, maybe you should have done something more with your life, maybe you should have tried to pursue this career that you wanted to, but if you never took time to try it, then you might feel regret. Also a tip while you're comparing the cost of inaction to the benefit of following through with becoming a PTA is compare that to a time frame. So when you're looking at, say for example, money, the cost of money, look at what will that be in 6 months, what will that be in a year, and what will that be in 5 years or 10 years or 30 years down the road, because your answer might change. Because initially, say your first year of being a PTA, you might be in a lot of debt from school and it might not be a benefit. But if you look 30 years down the road when you can retire and you have all this money saved up from working at this field and paying off your debt and all that stuff, it might be a big benefit down the road. So compare the time frame as well.
One of the things I'd suggest is not to be in limbo. So sometimes we can overanalyze and think about things too much instead of being a doer and taking action. So if you don't want to be a PTA or a PT, that's fine. Just figure it out and move forward. And if you do, map out the things that you're worried about and figure it out of how you can help prevent that and move forward. If you do want to be a PTA, we put together an online course specifically for this topic. It walks you through all the steps of what you have to do, what's expected of you, and it helps you along the way.
We put a link in the description of this video to the course of how to become a PTA. So if you're actually interested in checking it out, then feel free to drop down into the description to see what it's all about. And also one more thing we wanted to point out was that you are not alone through this process. There's been a lot of people before you that have went through the same process you did and became successful PTAs afterwards, or PTs. So don't feel like you're the only one that's struggling through this and trying to make your way through this journey. And just to let you know, we want to support you through this journey as well. So let us know in the comment section if you've started the PTA program, if you're interested in it, if you're halfway through it, if you're already working as a PT. Let us know so we can kind of just join you through this journey of this life in physical therapy. So thanks for watching the video, guys. We appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.